everybody, welcome back to another episode of Minecraft How to Build. Manticore here, and today, as you can see, we're standing on the far edge of the city, over by the witch's hut. And you might be noticing that this terrain behind me is looking a little bit sparse. Well, that is because after the last episode, when we were building that bridge right down there, I decided that, this forest, it wasn't really looking like a witch's forest. More like a generic forest that you'd see pretty much everywhere around us. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and build up some custom trees in order to make ourselves a witch's forest. Getting right to it here, we're going to go ahead and come right down here. And I think how we're going to do this is first, I want to go over the basic steps that I follow when building up a custom forest, and these steps are helpful, especially if you're building a very large forest. So in this case, I went ahead and laid out a path that runs all the way down through the town plaza, and it comes down to here to the bridge, which will eventually extend out over there. And then we've also got a smaller path, which is not really a secret path, but I guess just more of a hidden path that leads to the witch's house itself. Once we have this path set up, we're going to go ahead and start by planning out where we want some of our larger trees to be. So now I haven't planned out the tree design too much as far as what I want. However, I do know that up on this little hill, I want there to be a big tree right about here. And then I'm also thinking that one could be good right down here. However, there's not a lot of room on this small hill. So I think we'll go ahead and just get rid of that, and then we'll lay down another large tree right about here. And then I think that'll probably do it. Oh, actually, let's go ahead and do, it's a little bit further away, but we'll do a large tree right over here too. So one closer to the entrance of the forest itself. And then, I don't know if we're going to get rid of this tree or not yet. I left it just for now. But if it doesn't really fit in with what we designed, then we can get rid of it later on. So now, before I start putting in the actual trees, I'm not going to do all of these on camera with you guys. You'll see it through a video, but basically what I want to do is I want to show you some of the designs that I'm going to be building up, and then we'll just do a fast little video showing you how this forest is made. So first off, I want to throw in one or two more of these dead trees that I put near the witch's house, because those do feel very witchy. So I think if we go ahead and do one, I kind of want to say right about here in between these two trees that are the larger trees. So maybe just something right about there. And I'm not going to do all the limbs just yet, but I just want to plan out where everything is going at this stage. And so then I'm thinking we want to do another one maybe right about there. And maybe one down over here near this little ravine. We might wind up filling that in. Okay, so that should do it for the dead trees. And then what we could do is we could do some of these droopier dark trees. However, I think I want to use some dark wood for that as opposed to just the regular oak that we did over there. So maybe we'll just do something like this. And we're just giving it sort of a angled growth because we don't want these to grow straight up because they are very strange trees. And that might be a little tall. Maybe we take it down by one. One more? Sure. We'll leave it like that for now. And then, let's see here. I think we want another one of those right about over here. And I don't know if this will look weird giving it a different angle, but we'll give it a try. I sort of want it to lean over this little pond section. Alright, so from here, I'm just going to go ahead and place in a few placeholder trunks down on the ground so that we know where we want to build trees up at. And I think we should do one there. Maybe one there. And I'm just trying to scatter this about as randomly as possible. We might add a few more in once we do get some of these built up if some spaces are looking a little sparse. And then I also want to add in just a few small trees as well, so sort of like the aspen that we have over there, or that small sapling. Just something that adds a little bit of variety. And then we will be adding other things to this forest besides the trees. We'll be adding some... Oh, actually, I should probably do this now. I want to do a fallen tree somewhere around here. Maybe closer to the edge of the forest. And then that way, if we wind up cutting down these trees to put some other stuff, it kind of looks like they're starting to clear out the forest a bit until they reach the witch's forest itself. And I'm saying forest too much, so I'm just gonna shut up and show you guys what I'm talking about here. Okay, so we placed a small trunk right about there, and I think I want to put the fallen tree right about here. And normally I do this straight, but since there are a few trees over here, let's just go ahead and get rid of this one real quick. Okay. And then we'll pull that one out. And so basically this log was a tree that was right about there. And so this was recently chopped down, which means that it's gonna have a bunch of leaves all around it as well. And let's clear out this little bushel of leaves from that tree that we just cut down, since that's kind of distracting. Alright, but so just by scattering some leaves around there, it looks like that tree has fallen down, and you know, maybe it wasn't somebody who took an axe to it. Maybe it was like lightning or something else that struck down this tree. But so fallen trees here and there are always a fun thing to add to your forests, along with just random stumps. So these ones we're actually not going to be building up. That's why I'm putting them on the edge of the forest. Because again, I want it to look like they cut down some of these trees and used it to build up the tavern or something else that we'll build around there eventually. So that's going to be about it for the planning phase. Eventually we'll be adding some rocks and bushes and a few other things around our forest in order to give it more character, but for now I want to go ahead and start building up these custom trees a bit more. So at this point I'm just sort of taking out the branches in a few different directions, trying to make it look like they're growing around sort of evenly. But at the same time, we don't want to make this too large of a build because it is just a one trunk tree. And so what I mean by that is simply it's not one of those 2x2 trunks, so it should be a little bit smaller. This is what I would classify as a medium tree, and once we get some branches going in some different directions, we should be good to start adding on some leaves. But so I'm going to do that once more over here so that you can see one more example of pretty much unique ways to go about building the branches. There's no right or wrong way when it comes to building up custom trees, because when you think about it, each one is going to be unique. They're not all going to have the same exact design, unless you're trying to, like, fill in a forest. But you want some trees that have more character than the others, which is where you get these uniquely designed trees. And the more you play around with building custom trees, the more used to it you'll get, but basically you just want to bring out those branches in all sorts of different ways. That way it'll be covered, whatever angle you're building off of. So that's going to be the basic designs for our medium trees, which will build up on those single logs around there. And then for the dead tree itself, it's pretty much the same thing that we have over there, and honestly the same as what we have over here as well, where it just sort of gets built up, and it is all branches. The only difference is that it doesn't have any leaves. So there's one less step to building these dead trees. And we are using these full wrapped around bark, skin, acacia wood, because I like that gray for the dead trees. It looks less alive having that dark color. Okay, so I think I'll bring that one out like so. And then something like that, maybe? Now I'm just comparing to what we've done over here to get a better idea. So this is sort of a smaller dead tree. But you know, I think I like that. I think it's good for its little position. Maybe, if anything, we'll do something like that. Yeah, I think that should be good. Okay, so that's gonna be the basic design of what we're doing for our dead trees. Again, it's just sort of building up the branches in whatever way best covers the area itself. So by having these 4 different branches, it's spreading out in every direction, and it's covering more surface area. Now, coming back over to here really quick, I just want to show you guys a quick example of these small trees. If you haven't seen it in one of my videos before, all we do is a very basic design like this, with fences in the center and leaves on the side. Now, this is one of our smaller small trees, but another thing that you could do, say if this were a one taller, is come through here and add a 3rd layer to the sides. And then you could place a leaf block right around the corners. And you could even bring that up by 1. So there are different ways to build up these little small trees. You can make them full, you can make them a little skinnier, sort of like this sapling that we've got here. But play around with it, and it's a fairly simple design, so you'll get pretty used to it after a while. The last tree that I want to show you folks here, before we jump to that pretty much time lapse of building up this forest, is the 2x2 trees. Now for these ones, I do call these the large or big trees, and basically what we can do for these is just build up some roots around the bottom, is how I found to really give it some extra depth. So if we do something like that, and then maybe we'll bring it up a little bit higher like so, and bring it down like that. And again, this just sort of gives it a little bit more character. Okay, so I'm not sure how I feel about that. Maybe we'll do just something like that for now. And then another thing that you can do for these big 2x2 trees is if you take out one of the blocks randomly in the center and then place a, I guess you'd call that a horizontal log, you get the little mark like a limb was cut off, or just those little knots that you see in trees. And this looks especially good if you're doing an extra large tree, which is a 3x3. Now we're going to go ahead and start building up the limbs on the side, so it's pretty much going to be the exact same as with the other ones. However, we're not going to worry too much about getting rid of these ones down here on the sides, so like that. We'll leave those on there because since these are thicker branches, they look a little bit better just not being those diagonals. And I guess I should clarify that we won't worry about it further down on the lower limbs. Once you get up here to the smaller branches, you can start to get rid of them again. And so what that does is that just gives it a little bit of extra width down here and then makes that a little bit smaller. Another thing that you can do for these extra large, well, this is an extra large tree. This isn't an extra large tree, however, one thing you can do is you can go ahead and throw on these little fences on the side to make it look like skinnier branches once you get the leaves up around there. Okay, so now those are just two of the limbs that we have so far. We need to add at least one more. I try to do 3 per tree, that way it covers a good majority of the area around the tree itself. However, if you wanted to, you could just do the 2 branches if you have a smaller section that you're looking to cover, or you could even do 4 if you want to get it all the way wrapped around. Now, one thing that I want to do with this smaller tree is I want to bring out a small, well, I want to bring out a small branch on this large tree. So something maybe just like that. Let's see here. Okay, so I think if we do something like that and then we bring up the fences, this should look pretty good once we get the leaves on. And we'll just throw a branch over here for the heck of it. Okay, so those are the basics of the trees that we're going to be building up around this area as far as their actual bark trunk construction goes, and then we'll start throwing on some of the leaves here once we get the rest of the trees all built up. everybody, welcome back. As you can see, we've got this nice lush dark green forest right behind me, and I did go ahead and add some bone meal along the pathway, along with adding just a few rocks along the place, as you can see here. But we do still have a lot more to do down there, so we aren't quite done yet. Now, going back through here, I just want to go ahead and show you guys some of the things that I did. So I decided to add all these bushes and bone meal, the area around the path, mainly because I wanted to make sure that the witch's house was well hidden back there. So as you can see, you can still see it right through the cracks back there, but you can't see much of it, so you can't really tell what it is, and that makes you want to go ahead and follow this path and go check it out. But other than that, we've got some little custom trees, which I did not show you guys before we started the time lapse, and that's because I really decided to add these kind of last minute. So what we've got here is we've got a nice little willow tree, and the way that I made these is, you probably saw this strange little fence up there, then a little bit of a cross or plus sign, and then what I did, I made this one a little bit bigger than the one on the far side over there, but I like this one a little bit better. So it's got these three that drape down on the side, which are slightly longer, and then the diagonal one in between the four sides is slightly shorter than those sides, which gives it a little bit more depth and makes it more obvious that it's not just like a generic tree like something like this where everything looks flat along the bottom. But yeah, so that is the design that I went with for the willow trees. And then pretty much some of the last few things that we need to do besides bone mealing the area is to add a few more custom rocks and boulders and maybe one or two more small custom trees. So really quick, over here, this section, this is looking very green, so I just want to throw in a small rock or two to sort of break up all that green. Let's do something just like that, should be fine. And then we do have one right up there, so you don't want to do too many rocks. But then maybe we'll do somewhere right along here, we'll have one. And then I want to do a slightly larger one down here by the river. So if you saw the video where we went ahead and built the wheat farm, we're sort of building rocks similar to what we did in that video. So everything from stone stairs to half slabs to full-on blocks, we're just trying to come up with a design that makes it look sort of unique, and we're trying to make it stand out a tiny bit more. So this is a very strange design that we've got going on right now, but you know, that's okay, because strange makes things unique. Now, I think maybe what we can do is just do a small thing right here and something like right there, and it's definitely an interesting boulder, I'll give it that. Maybe we do something like that, and then this side is looking very flat, so we'll have to do something about that. Maybe we can do something, oh, let's give that a try. Okay, so something just like that is looking pretty good. It's sort of rounded and sort of jagged at the same time. Then I think I want to move this button out a little bit further. And there we go. That's the angle I wanted. Okay, so now we'll go ahead and throw in some more bone meal around the place. And I have been trying to get rid of any flowers that come in with the bone meal. And that's simply because since this is the witch's forest, we want it to be very dark and mysterious, almost creepy feeling. So now, every now and again, I'd say maybe every 2 or 3 bone meals that you do, you can add another rock in order to add a little bit of color around the place. So we'll go ahead and do something simple just like that. And then having these tall grasses around these big oaks really helps to hide any of the roots that might look a little funny on those trees. So then coming back down to here, we'll go ahead and keep bone mealing. So that's 1, it's 2, and since we're going in a different direction here, let's go ahead and add just a small rock or 2 along the way. And then this section is pretty open, so I think I want to do a larger rock somewhere right around here. And so this one's really more of a boulder, but we'll do something like that. And then we'll go ahead and wrap in something like that. And maybe we'll do something just like that. Okay, so that is definitely a unique boulder that we've got going on here. And maybe we just do that. Yeah, there we go. Something like that should work fine. And I think I like something like that a little bit better. Okay, so then we'll go ahead and add just a small button around or a few small buttons around the place. And then we'll do that and get rid of all the flowers. So I'm just going to go ahead and repeat this process all the way through the forest. And then that should just about do it for our custom witch's forest. But one thing I do want to do before I cut off really quick is I want to go ahead and grab one of these logs, and I want to do a small fallen log in here. So similarly to what we did with the fallen tree, however, there's no trunk and there's also no leaves around the place because this little fallen log's been down for a while. So we might do one more of those somewhere here along the way, but other than that, we'll go ahead and finish detailing up this forest. Alright folks, so there's one last item that I always forget about, and that is the sweet berries. So we're going to go ahead and just sprinkle a few of those around the place, and then I think that should just about do it, along with a few other bushes as well, in order to take away from all the grass and all the rocks. So now we don't want to do too many of these bushes, especially if you've got people running around through here. But we do want to do just enough that it pretty much looks like they are growing naturally out in the wild. And so that's going to be just pretty much our only spot of color throughout this forest is those dark berries. And then every so often I'm also trying to lay down a few bushes that can add to it. So right now, pretty much if you look over that way, you've got the bush, you've got the rocks, and you've got a little bush growing. I think we'll add one more right over here too, so we have a second one. And then we need some more bushes over in this section. So there are a few different ways that you can do bushes. The basic rule that I follow when I'm doing them is basically just to do, how would I describe it? So let's say you've got a single bush, and you can totally do those. Those are great. They add a little bit of decoration without taking out too much from the area itself. And so then, let's say that we want a slightly bigger bush. So we bring this up by one, and then we border it down below. So basically, if I go over here to another bush like this one, you can see that everywhere that I have two bushes high, there's one bush right below it in order to make it seem more gradual and rounded. Now, that's not a necessity if you want it to look more organic, but personally, that's how I've liked to do my own bushes, and I think that it works out pretty well. So in this case, for the too high, it's up against the wall, so we don't need to worry about putting in a bush back there. But the rest of it, the corners that, or not corners, but the sides that touch, those are all pretty much one high. Okay, so now we're just going to go ahead and add a few more of these throughout the area. I think maybe one right about there. And let's do a larger one right about here. Okay. And I like to switch up the leaves that I'm using for this because then it makes it look like there are different types of bushes growing throughout the place and it's not all just this dark green or bright green. And speaking of that, let's go ahead and take to the sky really quick because I want to show you guys what we really have. So we used to have that bright green forest that pretty much looked like this with a few birches in it every now and again right down here. And now we've got this nice dark green color. So you can tell that this is a little bit more natural and something strange might be going on over here. And that would be the magic caused by the witch herself. So now I'm noticing that this section down here is looking a little light colored. So I just want to throw in a dark colored bush in order to keep with our darkened theme. And let's do another sweet berry bush as well. I forgot that I was placing those down, to be honest. I got too distracted by custom bushes. Alright, so we'll just do a few. Something like that, maybe. Oh, this area looks very empty. Let's do a spruce leaf bush. And then let's also do a smaller berry bush right about there. Okay, so I think something like that should do the trick, folks. And that is going to do it for our Witch's Forest. If you did enjoy this video, make sure you hit that like button. And if you want to see more like it, don't forget to hit subscribe, because these videos do come out regularly and we're always making some cool stuff. So until next time, folks, I hope you have an awesome one, and I'll see you then. Bye!